The four deities of chaos can count many mortals among their followers. Religious zealots, sorcerers, powerful warriors. They all flock to the banners of the dark gods, offering their devotion and service in return for the favour of their chosen lord, and the bounty that inevitably follows. Most, though, are barely even pawns to the four rulers of the realms of chaos, and their devotion is simply the tool by which they're led to the slaughter in the name of evil, for deities who care little for their existence, if anything at all. Some, though, become something more. Through their acts of twisted piety and brutal violence, these very few are chosen to become something elevated, ascended to demonhood by their arcane masters. And none of these fortunate few are more famed, nor more feared, than the bringer of glory, the sword maiden of Khorne, the Gorequeen, Valkia the Bloody. Valkia's life began as a princess of a nomadic barbarian tribe known as the Schwarzvolf. Daughter to a chieftain father Marek and a mother who died bringing her into the world, from her earliest years her desires were not for the simple life of wife and mother, but for battle and to win the favour of their god, the Axe-Father, known to others as Khorne. Thus she fought her first battle at the age of 10, and by the time of her womanhood, though she had taken a lover Radek, she had neither married nor borne children. Her father, meanwhile, had taken one of her own friends as a wife, fathering another 3 children with her. But over time he had grown sick and increasingly frail. With the fortunes of a tribe so inextricably linked with the strength of their chief, it was inevitable that the Schwarzvolf would find themselves weakened, easy prey for other tribes, led by stronger men. When another tribe, fleeing from a foe that had already crushed them in battle, came to Marek's hall seeking sanctuary, the old chieftain saw an opportunity and made them an offer. They could take refuge with the Schwarzvolk, but only if they were willing to fight alongside them, bolstering the faltering forces of Marek's tribe. They had little option but to agree, and Marek had secured the future of his people. Or so he thought. At his back, though, many of the tribe were furious at the weakness of their ruler, not only shaming them by accepting an alliance, but abasing them by having it be with a fleeing clan of cowards. And among them there was none whose fury at this disgrace could match that of the chieftain's own daughter, Valkia. In her wrath she struck down her father, killing him in his own hall, as well as Radek, her own lover. The bloodbath did not end with those two, though, and Valkia slaughtered every opponent who stood between her and rulership of her clan, including her own stepmother and, cruelly, her stepsisters. Of her family, only her infant half-brother survived the massacre, and with that, Valkia had taken rulership of her tribe, and though she could never have foreseen it, the first steps towards demonhood. To consolidate her power, Valkia forged an alliance with the powerful Bloody Hands tribe, who were hunting the refugees whom Marek had taken into his short-lived protection. This, though, represented the height of her tolerance for politics. While she was able to see her people through the harsh northern winter via judicious rationing and organisation, her true passion, violence, was never far from her thoughts. She led the Schwarzvolf in a campaign of brutal subjugation against the peoples living in the surrounding lands, offering them a simple choice: join us and serve with absolute loyalty, or be butchered and have your corpses feed the birds and animals of the icy wilds. And she was true to her word. Any clan or tribe that did not submit to the yoke of Valkia Schwarzvolf and their Bloody Hands allies were cut down brutally, their heads impaled upon stakes around her camp, serving as both decoration and grim warning. As a part of this campaign, Valkia encouraged ruthless competition between her warriors, giving prizes to the most proficient killers in her ranks, causing them to always find new levels to the slaughter in pursuit of her approval. It took only a few years for this vicious campaign to result in the Schwarzvolf becoming one of the most powerful tribes in the land. This rise to power led Valkia to become even less tolerant of politics and negotiation. Even her allies, the Bloody Hands, were not immune. After she married their chieftain and bore 2 daughters by him, she murdered him and thus joined his people under her one rule, unfettered by the ambitions and lusts of a mere man. Men, though, were not the only ones taking an interest in the newly anointed Gorequeen. Losifax, a demon prince in the service of Slaanesh, had from afar heard tales of the Norscan warrior queen of the Schwarzvolf, and travelled to meet her with all the perverse intent one would expect of a servant of the god of all lusts. Upon entering Valkia's hall and laying eyes upon her for the very first time, the greater demon was smitten, enough so that he eventually made her an offer that he thought impossible to resist. Abandon her lands, her people, and her hard-won titles to submit herself to him as a slave, bound to servitude by day and by night subject to his darkest, most depraved excesses. He offered endless service matched by limitless pleasures. Valkia was not swayed. Instead, the demon's offer sparked within her the most violent rage she had ever felt, and she challenged Losifax to a duel. He, thinking a mighty demon of Slaanesh could not possibly be bested by a mere mortal, let alone a woman, agreed. And so they fought for hours at least, though some say days. A warrior queen fighting relentlessly against an unearthly power, matched seemingly by some stirring of the will of her own god, the Axe Father, within her. With one fateful lunge with her barbed spear, she landed the mortal blow against an immortal enemy, striking the head from Losifax's body and bringing him crashing to the ground, dead. With the pride of victory and the rushing sensation of Khorne's bloodlust still coursing through her, Valkia swore before the eyes of gods and men that she would take this demon head through the wilds of the Chaos Wastes and place it at the foot of the blood god's throne in tribute. With that, she bound the head to her shield, took up her spear, and set off across the wastes, seeking the brass citadel of Khorne. At the start, among her people, none doubted that she could and would fulfill her vow. Others, though, were determined to see her fail, and themselves avenged. In the Chaos Wastes, the servants of Slaanesh were waiting for her, hordes of demons bent upon a single purpose, to murder the Gorequeen of the Schwarzvolf and avenge the slight that she had visited against their god, keeping her victory prize from ever reaching the throne of her own lord. Valkia fought through inclement weather, ambushed over and over again by the warriors of Slaanesh, mortal servants, monsters, demons. Valkia fought them all, and for a time she won, but gradually her followers either fell in battle or turned their backs on her, fleeing back to their homelands. The attacks did not, though, relent. Flesh is always in abundant supply for the perfect prince, and none among his servants would ever refuse an opportunity for pain, be it inflicting it or receiving it. Eventually, surrounded by the bodies of her victims, the Gorequeen fell, her blood staining the white snow a livid red. It did not go unnoticed. The piety of Valkia, coupled with the fury of battle and the scent of spilled blood, had gained the attention of her god, Khorne. He had watched her across the years as she had fought rival tribes, then as she killed Losifax, and again during the ambushes of the followers of Slaanesh. Seeing her fall evoked something within him, whether satisfaction at her brutal labours, an unwillingness to see a rival god win, or something else. Khorne decided he was not done with the Queen of the Schwarzvolf. With a roar said to have shaken the mountains of the world, he took up the fallen body of Valkia and bent back great horns from her skull. Her legs he twisted into the cloven hooves of a bloodletter, and from her back he stripped and tore flesh and muscle, forming two great wings. Finally he breathed new life into her, and thus Valkia the Bloody opened her eyes once again, and saw the world once more, bright and beautiful. And with the fury of Khorne awakened within her, she wanted to drench it all in blood. She was reborn the bringer of glory. The blood gods choose her, seeking out the most skilled and vicious warriors to join her and fight in Khorne's name for eternity. Valkia the Bloody spread her wings and set out to find the most worthy, starting in her homeland. When she reached the lands of the Schwarzvolk, Valkia's senses were filled with disgust. She had left a land of warriors, but returned to a perfumed den of unrestrained lusts and indulgences. The whims of Slaanesh now held sway over the Schwarzvolk, and while some knelt before her in reverence, recognizing her coming as foretold in prophecy, most scurried away, bloated and sated, to their new king, Valkia's half-brother. In her absence, he had plunged himself into a life of gluttony and impure pleasures, dragging the tribe along behind him, down into the depths of his debaucheries, killing one of his nieces, a daughter of Valkia, along the way. Upon finding her people so debased, their strength sapped by carnal pleasures, the Gorequeen flew into an absolute fury, butchering the flabby, weeping king that shared half her blood upon his dais, and even murdering her only surviving daughter when she dared to resist. From that day forward, freed from all constraints of frail mortality and the weakness of human connection, Valkia has served only Khorne. Armed with her barbed spear Sleipnir, and the shield upon which she still bears that disembodied head of the demon prince Lucifax, it is she who is sent to test those who would become Khorne's champions, to inspire armies of the north to spill blood and take skulls in his name. From the destruction of the dwarf hold of Karak Gulg to the razing of Nordland, Valkia's roar drives on the armies of the north, inspiring acts of savage courage that resemble madness. From there she reaches out and claims the souls of the most brave and skillful warriors, carrying them to Khorne's hall to serve the blood god in glory for all eternity, undying soldiers in the endless wars of the great game. And now, with the Total War Warhammer series reaching its climax, the time has come for the bringer of glory to take the field once more, in the name of the blood god. Valkia as a character being based upon great skill and the inspiration of warriors might seem an ideal fit as a legendary hero in Total War Warhammer. However, with her being such an exalted champion of the blood god, it could actually only make sense for her to take the field as a leader, not as a follower. Valkia's faction should be a horde, with emphasis upon recruiting Norscan marauder units. After all, the idea behind her work is less that she should be ruling, and more that she should be inspiring others to follow. Her first duty should be placed upon awakening Norscan tribes in a way similar to the Warriors of Chaos. But instead of awakening many disparate clans and seeing them potentially wage war on one another, each new awakening should be added to the same vassal tribe, devoted to the blood god, and while not led directly by Valkia the Bloody, they should obey her commands to attack other factions. Valkia herself should be a flying melee warrior, capable of inflicting huge armor-piercing damage with a stab or sweep of her spear. Her presence nearby should give local units frenzy to demonstrate her inspirational leadership, and she should be able to raise great monuments to Khorne where cities once stood, to enable her to unlock supplies of Khornate units for her use, similar to the Imperial supply mechanic of the Huntsmarshal's expedition. For her own army, I would like to see Valkia being able to unlock and bestow banners that would strengthen units beyond anything that we see from normal items, as well as potentially being able to upgrade units to Khornate ones, as a representation of Khorne's favour being earned for those lucky warriors. For example, Norscan marauders could be elevated to Chaos Warriors of Khorne, or even a melee general or hero upon reaching a certain rank, having the chance to be ascended to demonhood as a bloodthirster, similar to how Heralds of the Dark Gods are ascended in Warhammer 3, rewarding Valkia with a servant of the greatest power to aid her campaign in the name of the blood god. These, though, are just my ideas for Valkia the Bloody in Total War Warhammer. What would you like to see? Leave your ideas in the comments section so that we can discuss them further, and hit the subscribe button so that you'll be updated when I release another video. And I'll see you there.